there are several levels here about having a voice. The personal level of what it means to have a voice, being part of a large community when English isn't your first language and it's in English, and when you might be a more quiet person, and here there's the challenge of speaking in front of 50, 60 people. I was thinking that we think about a democracy as a place, an experience in which everybody has a voice. But usually we think of it only as voting. It's this or this, I want this or I want this. But having a voice is so much more than just saying this, yes to this and no to that. Having a voice is having a presence, having one's own unique experiential world count, matter, be part of the whole, be heard. Having a voice is when our deep truths can be spoken, and each truth, each voice is needed in a democracy, in a collective, in a community like this. And so we wanted to experiment and reflect on that and what it means for all of us to have a voice, what it means for people, disenfranchised people, to not have a voice in the larger world, and how important it is to have a voice individually and collectively. So I'm going to turn our meeting over to Frida.
Welcome everybody, and especially everybody who is here in this international group who is not here with the native mother tongue, because speaking here in presence in a language that is not yours, you are, at least that's my feeling, I'm thrown in a sort of language community that existed before I learned my way of speaking this foreign language, and a language community with a special fluid atmosphere and culture in that, and a very welcoming culture. That's my impression. And what that makes with your inside world and your experiencing. Like I noticed with myself that the inner critic is super high active all the time as a permanent interference. So it makes some efforts to be really in presence with this inner critic being online all the time. That's one point. And also, like when you are the youngest child in a family, this is the case in my family, you have some kind of remembrance how it is to express your inside world to others who have already special codes in languaging. And you have to find and tap around and adapt to that. And maybe experience a gap between your experiencing inside and your means to put it out. And so thinking about what could help, what is a need to make it easier, to make it more connected, I came across the importance of pausing. Pausing between sentences and pausing between speakers, so that people with non-native English language experiences can follow up, so to say. Because non-native, you're always a little bit slower. You're always translating after something you heard. So to catch up and to match with the speaker who had spoken before you, and to fine-tune your broken English as best as you can needs next to pausing, according to me. And here comes something very important, I think, needs to be embedded in a feeling or an atmosphere of warmth, of respect, of resonance, of regard for your efforts, because you here are people who are committed to the international focusing community, and that is an extra effort plus, according to my view. And to get this embeddedness of warmth, and this I really want to offer you in my mother tongue with the help of Robert, who is German as well. So repeat the last sentence, which for me is the most important thing. It needs an atmosphere, an embeddedness of warmth and acceptance and respect and regard to have a voice in a non-native language. Robert.
I'm translating this into German.
Yeah. Just for the sound, to get a taste of it.
It's also a reflection, right? It's a focusing reflection.
Wir wollen eine Stimme, die in eine Atmosphäre von Wärme und kannst du das noch mal sagen?
Respect,
von Respekt,
acceptance and regard.
Aha, Respekt, Akzeptierung und my German is actually not that good anymore. Wie sagt man Regard?
Ja, wirklich Anerkennung.
Okay, so eine Atmosphäre von Wärme, Anerkennung, Respekt und wie sagt man, Einladung auf.
Yeah, so here we go. You have an impression how it is to transfer from one language culture into another.
And if I may add anything to Frida's beautiful, beautiful talk, it would be for me personally, I'm not translating back into German when I hear something, but I notice that often when I look up words in my first language, which is German, they have a much more intense and deeper resonance. So if I hear a word like even a word like warmth in English, it has a certain resonance in my body, and I have an understanding of it and everything. But then sometimes if I translate it back into German and take in the German word, it connects me to I guess to a developmental level in myself that the English word doesn't reach.
Mm-hmm.
And so I do that a lot. I like some things that are really resonant for me, and then I look them up in German, and it has a whole other dimension. So again, thank you for your beautiful talk.
Thank you, Robert.
Sorry, I wasn't able to translate it more smoothly and more. I've been speaking English for much longer than I've. So.
Yeah, thank you so much, Robert, and even thank you Extra Plus for showing and making the awareness that the sound of the words and the meaning of that in other languages has another impact for felt sensing and reaches other levels of felt sensing. And that is something very worth to explore, and we will explore it further here today. And this is something also which Lynn will expose more about, how silence can help us to get that all. And I want to invite you to be aware of how you want to bring yourself in with language spoken today. If you want to speak up, or maybe you want to write in the chat using a hashtag sign before the words that you want us to read aloud, so that you can stay a little bit more in the sensing modality of listening. As Lynn said, speaking and listening is one. So I will check the chat for the hashtags, and we will read them out later or in between, it depends. So I take over, I'll give over to Lynn.
Thank you, Frida, so much. I was just wondering if you would say that sentence again, and we could have it translated into Chinese or any other language. Is there someone who would do a reflection? It's like a focusing reflection in a different language.
In Hindi or Punjabi, I could do that.
Good. Okay. So Frida, go say that sentence.
Yeah.
And have it in another language. Wonderful.
Yeah, so take one breath and just open up your ears to the sound and listen to it. Needs warmth and acceptance and respect and positive regard for people to speak up and have a voice in a non-native language. Sashi, are you okay?
Oh, I find it is very difficult. It's difficult, so I'm going to try it. It probably will not have exact meaning words, but I will try to convey the feeling. And I'll say it in Punjabi, which is one of the dialects of India. And इसनु बड़े प्यार और सत्कार और बड़ी दिल दी नजदीक होके दूसरिਆਂ ਨੂੰ स्वीकार करके फिर ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਮਨ ਪੂਰੀ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਨਾਲ ਖੁੱਲਦਾ ਹੈ ਐਦਾਂ ਨਹੀਂ ਖੁੱਲਦਾ. Something like that.
Beautiful. And the accuracy isn't what's important in a reflection, right? It's the feeling. I wonder how it was to hear it for people in these different languages, in German, in what was the language you said it in?
Punjabi, you ask Punjabi, yeah.
So, Vivian, would you take a stab at the feeling of it? Just a sentence in Chinese?
Maybe I'll just translate what Freda has shared, like Sashi does, so that you can feel how different it sounds in a different culture. 请大家把自己安顿好，然后做一些呼吸，让自己放松，然后去感受一个不同的语言。Okay, that's it.
Beautiful. Very beautiful. Do we have Anyone else in another language?
I
Spanish?
can do it in French.
Yes, good, good.
Okay, I turned the sentence around, so to make it active instead of passive. Les gens qui s'expriment dans une autre langue que leur langue maternelle ont besoin de chaleur, d'acceptance et de respect et un regard positif pour pouvoir s'exprimer. Voilà.
Wonderful, wonderful. Each language has such a world, such, its own felt sense as well as the felt sense of the content. That was beautiful for me.
Yeah, and we don't translate. It's not a pure translation. We have to turn the words around. And for example, the Roman languages and the German languages, one has a more passive way of expression and the other one has a more active way. So it's very interesting to translation is not that easy. And I have to say that usually I don't translate unless I don't know the expression in a language, then I am going to check it out. Otherwise, I study the philosophy and psychology in English. So I don't have the words like Robert, I don't have the words sometimes in French. So generalization, it's everybody has his own case, I guess.
I wonder if I can translate into New York. In New York, we would say, hey, you guys, if you want us all to be together and you want everybody here, you gotta chill, man. You gotta pause. You gotta just shut up for a minute and listen, open your ears, and you gotta really respect us. That's the way that's translated into New York.
That's
Any,
about right, Lynn.
what's that?
That's about right.
Is there any other time?
Lynn, I find the word really special and very meaningful, but very hard to translate is the idea of sense of belonging. That is very crucial for people to open up all aspects of their being to have that as the basis, I think. And sense of belonging comes at all different levels, from in all different ways, and you can't force it on other person. You can just create the atmosphere, and the person has to develop a sense of belonging there for them to be a part of it and to feel accepted and to be at home with themselves and with others. And I think your group has created that for me. I mean, I feel that. And one of the things that I noticed when I came at the age of 18 from India, that in a meeting or something, everybody was given a chance to speak, whether they have something to say or not. And this was not so in India, and because it has so many hierarchical protocols and what have you. So this sense of belonging is a very special thing in America, I think.
Yes.
And yeah. And I don't even know how to, I have to find the exact Hindi or Punjabi word for it. I don't even know what that is. Yeah.
I'm so glad you're pointing out the relationship of having a voice and the experience of belonging, that you cannot feel that you belong unless you have a voice. And having a voice isn't just that you get to say something, but that who you are, what you have inside is finding a receptive home, and then you feel that you belong. But I wanted to say also that belonging is something that we claim, not just something that is offered. You know, that people who don't belong, in the sense that they aren't given a voice, need to claim their place and claim their voice. And we want to encourage all of us here to offer, to listen, to be receptive to, but also to claim our voices. It occurred to me when Frida was talking about that we need respect and receptivity. I forget the other words you used now, Frida. That also another language is a kind of offers a depth and a poetry that that those of us who don't have more than one mother tongue are really impoverished in not being able to see how something is in a different language, a different way of speaking. I'm remembering a student that I had in my focusing therapy training, and I was talking about the forward movement and how it has a life of its own, that life wants to move forward. And the student was from with another language, and I forget which language really, but she said, "Oh, I understand. You have to let the grow have you. You have to let the grow have you." Isn't that beautiful? It's not broken English. It's poetized English. It has an aliveness, a freshness that it doesn't have if we said you have to allow life to grow you or something like that. And we know that in focusing, don't we? That it isn't the accuracy of language. It's the music, and it's the deep meaning, and it's the life that comes through it.
Yeah, Lynn, I just read in the chat, and I'm not so fast to write every word also, but there is a saying in the chat that it's so important to find a way, always slang, because the underlying means of connection we have is universal, and slang can put that underlying means of connection out in a very vivid way, in a very strong way, a very direct way.
Right. Right. I'm so glad that we're exploring this today, because we want to be committed, and we are committed to having a truly international community, and to having a community of diversity, and to having all of the voices. I wanted to say that we hear not just the content, but we hear the whole living experience, the whole world, poetry, life form of the person when we're listening in a felt sense kind of way when we're listening to the deeper point that people are making. And focusing sensitizes us to go from the logical, linear, this word means this word means this, to this deeper level where we're listening with our bodies. We're listening to more than the words. We're listening to what's in the words and through the words. And this is the beauty of focusing. I want to ask Vivian to say something for us in Chinese, and it's not going to be translated. And I want to see what she's communicating to us, what we get from her without having the translation, without the literal word meanings. Vivian, you're on, and we're so pleased to have you express your voice and have a voice for us with a few words. And we're going to listen to the more than those words that comes through those words.
I think now a very short paragraph will do. 大家好，我是洪千传，很高兴今天跟大家在这里见面，然后希望大家今天都很开心。And okay, I'm done.
Thank you, Vivian. Thank you. And what did we get from that? Anybody, what was communicated to you?
For me, it was a lot of aliveness and and I felt welcome and connected. There was like a real sense of someone connecting in a very alive, friendly way.
I felt it was a happy, light feeling too. I felt the same thing. It was like just a very light, airy kind of something, she said.
Anybody else? Just chime in here.
I'm struck. Those are exactly the words I felt. Exactly the same words. Light, airy, communicative, right? Same words.
I also heard light, welcoming hello, like a welcoming hello. And I drew this little line as I was hearing her language.
Wonderful. And of course, drawing and music, there are so many languages. There was something to me very gentle, like there was something coming through of a gentle bringing us in or something. Anybody else?
There was a warmth that came through along with that gentleness.
And Vivian, what was it like for you?
I would say, well, I think I have this intention of, giving the warm welcome to everybody. And actually, according to the sequence, first I say hello. And second thing, I share with you my Chinese name. And then, then I express my, I think, in my joy and happiness, with all of you today. And I hope you all enjoy today very much. That's the end.
Oh, that's so beautiful. And Kate, you got to hear it. You got to hear the words because you understood. Yes.
I think I have to say something here. Actually, I think there's some nervousness with the excitement, because I don't usually say, talk in this classroom. So there's some emotions here.
The emotion of excitement.
Mm-hmm.
That you're having a voice in a different way today, right, Vivian?
Yeah, right. And so when I think, Doc says that there's certain uncertainty and shyness, and I think that's something beneath, my sharing. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Uncertainty and shyness. I also get an eagerness, a wanting to communicate, to be heard, to share. Is that right?
I would say that eagerness came with the excitement and also nervousness. It's out there because I knew I have to do this today. And so there's a kind of energy finally released, that can come.
A risk.
Yeah.
I think that many times, and we'll talk about this all together, for all of us, not even those who are speaking in a non-mother tongue, that when you are really having your voice, when you're claiming your voice, you're saying your deep truth, there's an excitement and a nervousness, a risk. There can be a risk when you're saying something that's important to you. Do people resonate with that? And there's something that that feels very enlivening about taking that kind of risk. It's sort of like in focusing that edge, and I think of it as the intimate edge of experience, of going to that edge where, oh, if I say this, will I be received? Jim often goes to that edge, saying, I'm going to say this and maybe you won't like it. I felt that edge when I was translating into my street language of New York, like going to an edge of, oh, what, maybe people won't like that. But feeling like, oh, I want to bring that. It's a feeling like I want to bring my whole self, because each of us are a unique microcosm, Jean says, of the whole universe. And nobody else in this entire world has the voice that each of us has. We're each unique, and each voice is needed.
Yes, I resonate with that, Lynn, on the risk we take when we risk to voice our truth. And I wanted to go back to something somebody wrote in the chat that maybe has some connection with the risk taking. Somebody said having a voice is different for people who have been colonized or oppressed.
Yes, yes, yes.
This was on my mind because the statement belonging is something we claim, not something we're offered, is a really powerful statement, but for some people that's really complicated, especially if there have been pre-existing conditions that set one up to not feel entitled to claim. And I was interested in the difference between the New York voice and other voices, and it's kind of in that too. There's just Anyway, just some thoughts.
Yes, yes, thank you. Those are, yes, yes,
And I feel that having a voice is sometimes to give a voice to people who don't have a voice. It's not always to express ourselves, but to implement systems that allow other, or to be aware that we have a voice and we have to use it.
Yeah.
And also there is this having a voice as making noise. It's kind of the extrovert introvert thing. And so we have to be very subtle about that. I can have a voice by saying nothing with my face,
yes,
or living. So it's more than words, and it's more than personal too. Yeah.
absolutely. I'm remembering that years ago, when it was very unacceptable for psychoanalysts to be gay, not at the very beginning when it was completely unacceptable, but I would say maybe 10, 12 years ago, at a very formal conference, there was a dance. And I asked my partner, Ellen, to dance with me, and we got up and danced. And there was something that was very important to us, to have a voice, to belong, to claim our relationship with each other by dancing. And that said more than it would if I had given a paper on issues of uh, LBGQ, rights or something like that. To just dance was an important statement. So I think that speaking up or speaking isn't always the words, but it's the claiming.
You're also getting into symbolizing when you talk about dancing together as an expression of voice.
I missed one of your words. You're also talking about
Symbolizing.
symbolizing. Yes, symbolizing. Yes, yes, yes. Well, that's very much what words are, and there are many ways of symbolizing, right? Absolutely. Yes, I want to make just one other point, and then we'll have a few more comments, and then I'll offer you an attunement, and we're going to go into breakout rooms that are a little larger to stretch the people who can speak in the group of 4 but can't speak in the whole group. We're going to make a little larger. The point that I want to make that I didn't get a chance to say is the focusing idea that we never even know what we are going to say. It has to come. We don't make the words. We may have all intention of saying something, but what comes is always more than we intend, or could be less than we intend, or different than we intend. But that's such an important idea, that it has to come and that it is much larger than our intentions and our preparation. And it comes not only from within, but the within is also always the between. I'm not isolated, so it's not like I have my voice in isolation. It's like we are, and what comes in me comes in the interaction. I wouldn't have spoken my street talk with you, that wouldn't have come in me if you weren't being you and our interaction wasn't the way it was. So we, to have a voice is for all of us to be interacting in such a way that we experience the freedom, that relational freedom to speak what we feel and who we are in the moment. And so we're all doing that together, even when we don't know we're doing it. So let's have just a couple more comments, and then I'll lead us in a tiny attunement, and we'll go into our breakout rooms.
One thing that strikes me as important is the connection or boundary between having a voice and speaking a language.
Right. Having a voice and speaking a language. Yes.
Yeah. And they're not, in some way, there's some overlap and there's some not overlap, some distinctiveness, some uniqueness to each. You know, and this isn't necessarily connected, maybe it is. I really liked in Vivian's impromptu Mandarin, I assume it was Mandarin, I can't tell the difference. Vivian used her Chinese name, you know, her identity, claiming her identity in her language, in her mother tongue, native language. That's also something interesting to reflect on. You know, our expressions, mother tongue, a sense of nurturing and native language, something about we live there.
Yes. Absolutely. We live there. Thank you. Okay. Let's take a breath and settle into our seats. So many levels that we're speaking on, and so many ways we're being together this morning. Let's just make room for all of them. More than we can think. There's always more going on than we can think. I'd like to invite us to focus on the experience for each of us of having a voice, what it feels like in our bodies when we have a voice. When we feel that we are communicating, that we are showing, that we are allowing ourselves to be heard and seen. And it feels like it's congruent with who we are. This is me feeling. And it's received. And received by us. And there might be an instance that you think of maybe in this group or in your life, of that feeling of excitement, of sometimes of risk taking. Sometimes it isn't like that. Sometimes it's just relaxing to have a voice. And let's see, what are the conditions? And they're different for each of us that allows us to have a voice. What is the kind of interaction that we need? Some people need a one-to-one experience. Some people need to write it. Some people need to prepare. Some people need to have another person ask them, specifically welcome them. Just see if something comes when we say, you know, I need such and such. But then let's see if there's a little stretch there. Maybe if I can only speak with 4 people, maybe I could try speaking with the 6 people and see. Or maybe I could speak without preparation. Or maybe I could speak in a different language that I don't know well. Maybe I could speak when the other person isn't so receptive, when they're angry. Okay. A breath, and let's come back. So let's just see what anybody wants to share.
I'll say something because I put myself on an anti-shy program. And what was delightful in our group is many of us identified that we felt reticent or shy or embarrassed, or different words for why we wouldn't speak, or we would wait to be the last one. And I was so touched because I thought we all have that inner, whatever it is, hesitancy or embarrassment. And then nothing happens. So you say the wrong thing or you say something stupid. You won't feel any more left out or not part of the in-group than you did before. And maybe someone, and sometimes people don't get you. That was a big one for me. Like, you're speaking your truth and they don't hear it and they don't want to. And, you know, that's how it is. But it was really lovely. And I was glad to be back after a long time. So.
Wonderful, thank you. That whole idea of an in-group and being part of an in-group, and what if you aren't accepted when you speak your truth? Such human issues, aren't they?
I love the comment that someone just made a few moments ago of stirring the pot of humanity. And it feels
I was
to me
left.
like that's what this group does, is stir the pot of humanity in such a positive, wonderful, accepting way where everybody has a voice.
I love that too. Maybe we should call our group the pot stirrers of humanity.
Yeah, yeah. I think especially bringing these elements of language and sense of belonging and culture and all that is really these are our basic ingredients, I think, and it's really stirring the pot by looking at this. That's how I feel today. I feel that
Yes, yes.
at different levels. Yeah.
And that's such a wonderful felt sense metaphor of stirring the pot, isn't it? Of what that does to stir the pot. It's like bringing all the and bringing everything together when you stir the pot. Those are my associations. Kate, what was your group like? You're muted.
This is something I'm always afraid of. My group was great. There's a lot to take in, and I am not sure what I'm going to say.
Always true.
I don't know where to start, and so I'm afraid of speaking in front of the group.
Kate, you told us the difference between the simple words and the whole body language, right? You did that.
Yes.
When I have to speak, I often feel I have to search something inside me and to pull it out, or
To pull it out of you. You have to pull it out.
yeah. I remember Shashi said, how do we develop our voice? How do we get a voice? I'm not sure. I'm not sure of that. I always feel embarrassed if I said I want to say something. It's like I don't get to. It's like what I'm thinking is not important. It's not interesting.
This is the first step. Great. That's the first step. Go ahead.
The first, would you say more, Sasha? The first step is the step of recognizing. Just say a little bit more about that.
And tonight's group, there were 6 people there. It's already a stretch for me. Now I'm speaking now. It's a big challenge.
Good.
Very good. Okay.
Very good.
I don't dare to do this even I'm speaking my own language. Now I'm speaking English. That's
You can also speak to us in any language that you want to. But I want to say back what you said because you said a lot.
Thank you.
You said that you said that your group was wonderful. You said that what gets in the way is the embarrassment and the worry that it will be boring, or there was another word you used beside boring, not interesting. And that you have to come into contact with that critic when you speak.
Yes.
But that you want to speak. And then there's that beautiful laugh that you have of saying, I am doing it. I wonder how many others of us have that experience of having to come to grips with the critic that says maybe it won't be interesting, maybe it will be boring, maybe people don't want to hear from me.
Yes.
Yes, and I think it's also good to acknowledge that that comes up in different settings.
Mm-hmm.
Like this particular group, it's not so difficult for me to speak up, but I can think of many settings where I feel the exact same way of what Kate just expressed. So I feel very grateful to hear that from Kate, because I'm really no different if I think of other settings.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. And I wanted to add also that, Lynn, when you reflected back, it came clear to me that you were also acknowledging Kate's word. And sometimes I found that when I speak my voice, then I don't hear the acknowledgement. And one of the things that focusing gave me is to be reflected back, to feel, oh, okay, somebody heard something of what I said. I feel acknowledged. And that's so precious we have in focusing.
Yes, so important. I'm just taking in what you said, Sophie, about just the profound importance of reflection.
So what came up in our group was, with a few people, was safety.
Mm-hmm.
How important safety is in being heard, or even feeling that one can voice what they want to say. And I do want to say, Lynn, I just feel that you're creating such a space of safety here. And it's such a wonderful, such a good example of that.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I want to jump in because I don't think it's just Lynn. I think we're all creating a container of safety.
Yes.
Because I have been in many other groups where I couldn't speak because I didn't feel my voice could be in a safe place. So these are the ingredients I think that we're creating as a community.
Yes, I agree, Melinda. Thank you for pointing that out.
I agree also.
I want to thank, I guess, Shashi and Kate for bringing that question that Shashi brought to their small group, and Kate reflecting it again of how do we develop our voice, because I think a part of it points toward kind of connecting with last week, and sometimes the development of our voice comes in questioning how it has been underdeveloped or embarrassed to emerge or fearful to express. And in coming toward that or finding it is, I think, a part of our journey, our exploration that feels alive, but also feels scary.
I think that's the door of reluctance. That's before the door of reluctance. Exactly. That's before the door of
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
Thank you, Beth. Right.
Yeah.
It's just about time to stop. And maybe we'll have one more comment before we stop.
I have something. And it's just an invitation if we ever offer reflection in a in a different language, and then we have translation in English. And I know it slows the process, but I think it also is really quite meaningful. So I would just like to invite if anybody would like to offer a reflection in their own language, and then we find a translator, that would be meaningful to me.
Okay. Thank you all so much. I had a wonderful time with you, and see you next week.